guys tell me that we don't want to go digital, then that just cuts that conversation out. So these are just priorities. We said we want to move in this direction. So if we're trying to get what the community says is what their priorities, do they align with ours as
Yeah,
administration?
but if you can do things to fit it in without a tax increase, that changes, I mean, that changes things. That kind of stuff is very important. To just keep spending money and raising taxes just doesn't make sense.
It depends on the cost. I mean,
Yeah.
we've got things listed, but we have no idea what it is.
Yes, so March will be a heavy lift from a budget standpoint to bring all the costs and all the priorities. So these are, like I said, these are just the ones that came up. So like, just for the Chromebook cycle, we did the 2 new Chromebook cycles last year. This is another one that's end of life. This is actually 5 years. We got an extra year out of this with these particular Chromebooks, and we'll be looking to have another lease on these Chromebooks.
How many Chromebooks is there?
So this would be grades K, 1, 2, and I believe the library. I don't know the exact amount that Eric was requesting on that.
They're not gonna last more than 5 years.
They're particularly 3 to 4 is the maximum. We stretch them to 5. And you have to think of the audience that's using them, which is kindergartners, first graders.
Why do we have Chromebooks at elementary school and not iPads? Because that never makes sense.
I can't speak to that.
Well, I think that's something we can have Eric explain on Monday. Because I've always, because when I was in high school, we were like, we would rather have the Chromebooks to type of
In elementary
an
school,
essay
you have
or
the
whatever.
iPad.
And you think that the elementary school would be better suited for an iPad.
I know
Exactly.
he can be able to give you from his tech standpoint, but I don't.
Well, I think it should all be the teachers. I mean, I think it's not.
So that's where that Chromebook that we did that first time, I believe, was purchased with ESSER monies. And we talked about we went to along one more year last year. Now we would have to bring that in-house as a new cycle. So that would be that. And then the other is ACTI funding. So last year we did the 1% ACTI. If that's still a priority, which it is from administration, to be continue that 3-year plan that we put in place, continue that again this year.
Here's my issue about the whole ACTI thing, is there's literally no plan. We've never heard anything about, from Gettysburg area school district that they have to get out. I mean, we don't know what this new person's gonna do.
I know Dr. Mitchell has been working on it with the other superintendents, and he said multiple times that he is looking to present something.
Yeah, I'll speak to that. First of all, you can't talk too much because one, it's executive session, where you're at. When you're executive, where we are at in ACTI's executive session stuff, i.e. buying land, etc.
Okay.
So you can't say anything other than you're looking. So that's
You're talking about ACTI.
ACTI. So that's null and void, you can't go there. The plan is that Gettysburg said they want their building back, but they understand because they're also funding that. So the sooner that they get us out, then they get their building back. So they're not rushing us, they're not rushing Sean, but they're saying we want it back. So you get it.
I mean, I know people that have talked to people in Gettysburg, and they've never heard of such a thing, that they want their building back.
Well, do they come to the meetings?
No, but.
No, you can stop
I'm
with
saying,
that. No,
why
they don't
isn't it
come to
a
meetings.
common, I'm saying, why isn't it common knowledge? Because no one else has heard this.
What, I've been saying it for 2 years now.
Gettysburg area school district.
Well, the Gettysburg area school, what are they gonna say? We want our building back?
If you can say it, why aren't they saying it?
I'm sure they are saying it.
But I'm saying it's not common knowledge, why, if nobody.
I can't explain why people don't pay
has heard
attention
of
to school board meetings. And you said it yourself, when I asked the question, do they come? No, they don't come. They don't listen. They listen to what they want to hear. And nobody's been saying it, and that's the thing. We've been talking about, and I've been dealing with ACTI for over 8 years now.
I get it.
8 years they've been saying we want our building back. So for 8 years they've been saying it.
Well, I talked to them. So is there any way that we can maybe get, and this might be a level thing that we need to ask, can we ask J.C. Perrin or ask their board leadership if, like, that's a, Like, if,
But
is that,
a
is it?
The timeframe, I mean.
Well, because it
They
makes
can't
them
do
look
anything
bad.
But it
until you
affects our
get the land.
decisions here.
Until you get the land, you can't do anything.
I understand
You can't, you couldn't do anything with getting anything until you had an EITN, was it EITN number? I can't remember, yes. Until an EITN number, you can't get anything there. So you can't purchase anything until you have the ATIN number. You couldn't even get the ETIN number until you had the advisory board. So until the advisory board was set and met, then you could file for the EITN number. Then you can now start getting the funds and getting the grant to go buy the land. So it's this slow process. You're starting something from absolute scratch.
I'll just add that Jason is on the team of superintendents who's pushing the ACTI bill. So if he didn't want them to pursue this, he wouldn't.
Well, it's not that he doesn't want them to pursue it, it's.
It's not that
the
we
way-
don't want to.
But it's the way that it's being made sound like, the reason we're doing this is because Gettysburg wants their building back. And that makes Gettysburg look bad if that's not the case. If they're forcing every other school district in the county to build this thing because they're taking the building away, which from what I've heard is not the case.
I would say from the conversations I've had, they also can't expand where they're currently at. So we want programs, which all the boards and all the superintendents said, we want expanded programs. They can't do it at the Gettysburg location.
Exactly.
So that's
the whole,
that's
that's
not-
the argument
It's
for
a twofold. They
ACTI.
want,
It's
What is it
twofold. We
about-
want our building back, but we don't need our building back, but we want you to expand. So
Well,
it's
you
a,
don't have to move them. If they don't, I mean, okay, you keep saying they want their building back, nobody else has heard this, but you could keep what you have there and expand somewhere else
so
in the time
they
being.
did a feasibility study, which is what the ACTI is. They looked at both those options, keeping it there, adding the satellite facility, doing all that, and I believe the board and the committee recommended is going with a standalone building by itself and do more programs.
here's the problem. If you do what you want to do,
I'm saying,
you've got to run, here's the problem with doing what you want to do. Saying that you just keep them here and they get to keep the building. Okay, hold on, just stop. Here's the problem. You've got to run, every school district then has to run a bus there, to that location, then run a bus somewhere else, which costs money. So that's one of the things, that's the reason the feasibility says, put it in one location. Then you've got administrators that are gonna be in two different locations. You gotta have double the administration, you gotta have one in this other building and one there. So the cost, so that's why when they did the feasibility study, they looked and said the best thing to do is put it on one location, buy one piece of land, centrally located as best we can for the school districts. Because at the time, way back when, 7, 8 years ago, we had actually talked about Conewago having some, Littlestown having some, Fairfield having some, but then we were running buses all over Blessed Creation.
Well, we're running buses now to Gettysburg.
Yeah.
So, you
So
know.
one bus going over.
Right. So there was talk, we were talking about in-house or staying with, you know, with transportation. And there was even talk about opening up a facility to add to current, to open up more issues, more, whether it's welding, whether it's diesel or gas or, you know, automotive or whatever. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that can be discussions and put on the plate. It's just, we're trying to figure out how do you look into the future and pay for it? And that's part of the issue. So, you know, we need to keep our conversations open, keep them realistic, and we can't get out of ahead of ourselves without having some sort of a plan. Now, Carl, you're saying that you can't have a conversation, you can't have a plan until you buy the land.
You can have a conversation, but you can't move forward with building plans until you have a piece of land. And you can't have a piece of land until you have the funds. And you can't get the funds until you have the EITN number. So it's that terrible thing of, you gotta start building, and then even once you get the land, you've got the infrastructure that's then gotta be put on. So then you gotta pay off for all that stuff. And you just saw what we went through with the building here, just a simple infrastructure. And trying to find a piece of land that's reasonably cost, you know, is one of the things why I say you gotta be careful how you say it, because people that have land, then all of a sudden somebody's looking, they jack the price up and think it's a school district.
Well, it's, the thing is, you have the tax increase from last year, so you have that amount for ACTI, as no matter what, right?
Yes, it's good.
Well, even if we don't raise taxes, you have that amount.
And that
It's
it's
gonna
gonna
double
double this year.
It's
It's
gonna
Put it in
double
the
this
fund.
year.
gonna double this year. And it's gonna, we're gonna get interest off that.
Yeah, so it's a 3-year plan of 1% each year, based off of the initial proposed, based off the feasibility study, what it would cost each school district.
Well,
No, I'm saying last year's 1%, if you have that already built in, if we don't raise taxes, you have last year's 1% amount that you can carve out.
Or ACTI.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally, it was the plan of why we raised the 1%. It's already gonna be put onto the fund balance, what that cost will be at that 1%.
So what she's trying to get is, you're not gonna do
And
1 year this year, add another one, so it would make it 2 this year, the next year, and then
No,
add
it's
another.
one every year, so one,
Yes.
one.
So no,
usually we use one to raise 1%. So, because you've already got a 1% raise.
So we needed a total of anywhere between 3 and 4% to fund ACTI based off their initial preliminary feasibility here at our district.
so
Other
no, it's
districts
not
had different
compounding,
ones.
it's not compounding. He's not asking for another 1% this year.
well, he is.
Yes.
It is.
He's
You're
actually
asking
asking
for-
for another.
No,
I thought
that's
you,
one.
so you're saying you're technically, we took out 1%, and this year you want asking another one, so technically you're gonna get 2%
Yes.
for it.
And it's gonna continue to compound in a bank account.
So the next year that you're gonna have for
Nobody
the
knows
third year,
what-
so you're gonna technically have 1, 2, 3,
Yes.
4, 5, 6.
Remember, the other strategy was if you did zeros, when we got to ACTI, you needed to raise 3% at a minimum just to fund ACTI. That was the two strategies that we proposed. You
But
do
1,
0
1,
to
and
3
1
years.
adds to 3,
Yeah.
not 1, 2, and 3.
So
That adds
every,
to 6.
every year, so when 180,000, we only get 180,000 for 1 year.
Right.
Okay, so then next year, it's still the 180,000,
We get again.
but that's only 180. The total cost of one payment was 540. We only have 180 of the 540. We still need the other gap, which is the other 2%, to make up the whole 540 every year.
Your math is off,
No, no.
because 180 this year, put aside,
That-
180 again next year adds up to 360.
That's a cash balance, not a debt service every year balance. We would have that for 1 year. We would have that payment for 1 year. We have 30 years to pay. The 3%, once it's done, once you build up that cash, you can use it for the first payment, or you getting it the next year. It's in that buildup. You're only gonna, once you pay off that, you only have 180 reset, back down to 180. It doesn't go
So
until
you're
you
saying
build it up.
560 is what we're gonna have to pay.
Every year for 30 years. You would only have enough to pay
So
one.
you're trying, what you're trying to do is take the 3 years to get the 560, so that, okay. I see
Yes.
what you're trying to do. All right.
But we don't know that it's gonna be that
Yeah.
much. Because
We have
we
nothing.
started with Don last year when we started this conversation. It was a $40 million project.
Right.
Now it's ballooned to at least 60, pushing 70.
And we haven't even gotten the ground yet.
And we haven't gotten the ground yet, we have no land. None of the
plan.
board members, except for maybe 2, have any clue what's going on. And we're just expected to continue to tax people
And we
when
have
there's no idea of what's going to happen.
For when?
So like I said, the counter argument is, sure, we can do a zero for ACTI. But in 2 or 3 years, when they go to build and they're asking for that 600, 500 some thousand, where are we going to pay it from?
You will have another surplus.
That's a one-time, a
Right.
1-year payment. We have 29 more years to pay for it. So where's the other
But I
29
understand-
prepared?
I understand it, Tom. I know what Chris and I guess everybody's always done is a slow ramp up, because one thing that's consistent among that chart is that there's never been a zero in the last 10 years or whatever. But the fact of the matter is that we took money out of people's pockets last year that's sitting in the bank. And then we're gonna take double that this year that's gonna sit in the bank, and another percentage that's gonna sit in the bank before we even have an idea. Instead of, at a certain point, if we need the money and say, hey, this is what the cost is, this is the program, this is the effect, then we get it. But I understand the slow ramp, but at a certain point, people just see their tax bill go up every year, and I mean, ACT, until they buy land, build a building, like, this is, I mean, it's easily gonna be 5 years plus till that's a reality.
I
Yeah,
disagree with
right.
the time frame on that.
Good question, do you just go out and buy a truck and pay for it all at once?
No, you don't pay for it all at once, but what I'm
Some
saying,
people do.
but what
So-
I'm
so
saying
do
is,
you not put-
we're
you
gonna
don't
get
put
the
away- you
mortgage
don't-
payment,
Well,
but
we are putting 180,000, we have the original
You put
1%.
away, so you put away 180. And if you know that you're gonna get, you've got something that's got an endless end to it. Okay, I'll use a better analogy. Do you wait until you run out of toilet paper before you go get some? Or do you buy your toilet paper ahead of time?
no, that just
No,
doesn't
no,
make
no.
any sense.
That-
I
that's
mean,
perfect sense.
we are
You-
putting
no,
something in there.
here's-
We're
here's-
doing
here's the-
180,000 from the
Here's
original.
the argument, here's the argument that you've got. If you wait till the exact moment that you need
Well, we're
it,
not saying that.
no, that's exactly what you're saying. You're saying, let's wait till we know exactly what we need. So, I'll use paper towels instead. Since you guys are up on that. If you wait till you go to reach for a paper towel and it's not there, you then say, oh, now I've got to go get one. Now I've got to now go get it. Oh, guess what?
No.
I've got $1.30 in my pocket. $2 is what I need to get a roll of paper towels.
Listen, you guys did a 1% tax increase that is never gonna go away. That 180,000 is in there every year, because that 1% is there every year.
And
We
what was
are gonna be
inflation last
putting
year?
something aside.
And what was inflation last year?
Well, let me give you an analogy. I'll take your
You don't-
analogy and I'll raise your analogy.
Listen, the
So
thing,
say,
here's
say,
something.
say that we're gonna, say that, you tell Lisa that you're gonna go to buy at Walmart and stock up your whole pantry with paper towels. And today, you take $5 from her, tomorrow you take $5 from her, next day you take $5, and there's still no paper towels, and that goes on for however long. And eventually, you've got more money than you know what to do with. And in our case, we're collecting interest every year, money that could be in taxpayers' pockets until we need the money, and instead of it being, with us being.
And again, I look at it as you have to look at it as a future paying off when it's slow, when you can get it a little bit of a time versus saying, okay, great. Where if you look at Conawago right now, which, Tom, what are they going up?
They went to 7.2 or 4 last year. and they're looking
Because they had
to
such a
5
boom
again.
in housing, they saw this housing going on, they're like, yeah, look at this housing over here, this could be great. And now they're so far behind the 8 ball, they had to go up to 7. Can you explain going to a 7?
Well, we don't want to get to a 7.
Okay, so that's why it's easier-
They're
it's
talking
easier.
about 3 or 4, but we don't even know, and we don't, with respect to Conawago and even Bermudian, they don't seem to be in a financial position that, like, that 7.2, to my understanding, didn't include ACTI.
No?
They just need for their own stuff.
Yeah.
And,
So are they gonna
and
go-
so I don't see
They're
the
gonna be
same
behind the
commitment
eight ball
in some of
later.
the other districts. Gettysburg has matched the one last year, but some of the other districts aren't giving the same commitment.
And they're gonna be behind that 8 ball like Conawaga was because they didn't plan for the future. They saw the things going on, but they didn't plan for it.
So it sounds like it's an all or nothing. In other words, all the districts that are part of this all have to participate in the same effort. And if 1 or 2 drop out because they can't, then it's gonna shoulder the taxpayers from another district that they
They
have.
can't drop out, they can't drop
But
out.
here's the thing, we have, from the time I've gotten back on the
You can't
board,
pay the
we
bill
have
to
been
drop it
spending
out.
money left and right. Why, if we knew this was coming up? It's just, oh, we're just gonna raise taxes. It doesn't make sense to me.
ACTI is a different thing. You've got, because of the growth of the way that it's gotta be.
We could have done something.
We couldn't have done anything because not when you were on the board prior, because we weren't planning on building a new building. We were looking at it, thinking it might be a thing, and then they finally, said, okay, in order for us to be a better substantial building, we're not gonna be able, this building is not adequate for us to use, so therefore we need to have a new building. Now, all this can be for love and glory and not, because if you get some funding from the state, you get some funding from the federal government, we then get to turn money back around. Now, maybe if you put a stipulation that says all that money then goes back, you know, which something that can be done.
Well, that's what I'm saying, we're going to have the 180,000 every year from the 1% that's never going to go away. You can pull that out and put that in that account every year. And then if we do have some kind of funding like
But
that.
you're only talking, and I see Tom's point, where you gotta come up with a $560 or $500,000 payment, and that's what we're ramping up to, so that we're ramping up to one.
They're saying 3, it was originally 3, now it's 4, it'll probably be, end up being more than that. But we're acting like I mean, we're not gonna solve it.
Because you have the 1% and then you do another,